morning. Welcome back to Impact. I know for a fact that hundreds of people have tuned in, maybe thousands, because we were supposed to have Santa in the studio today, and I love modern technology. I just had a message from Santa, and his message was, "I need an elf to keep me on track." He completely and utterly forgot about our interview. He's so crazy busy right now that he is not going to make it down. So we grabbed a fine young gentleman named Willi Whiston to join us today because he was in the room.
Hey.
And he's got a great story to tell, and he's doing some really great work in the community. So we're gonna replace Santa with Willi.
I'm sorry, everyone.
That sounds like a movie. Willi Whiston is the creative director with the District Recording Studio. Thanks, Willi, for just being spontaneous like this.
This is fun.
It's awesome. And the timing is actually pretty good because you have an open house for the District Recording Studio coming up later this week. It was like this was preordained.
It's true.
Let's talk about the open house real briefly. When is it, and why should people come?
The open house is this Thursday night at the District Recording Studio, which, in case you don't know, is in Composite High School, downtown Fort McMurray.
So the first thing, and I get screwed up every time I come here, off hours, where do people park and where do they enter the building to come to this said open house?
All right, this is actually confusing. So you need to park in the front.
Okay, so you come in, you turn to the right. Maybe like the staff parking.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever. Staff parking is fine. And then you're going to walk along kind of the back where the shop is. You'll see some vehicles parked. There's a big garage. And then we have these kind of secret doors that are very cool, hopefully. And you can come enter it in that way. So
okay. So it's behind, I think it's, Corliss Field is back there somewhere. You probably don't know about Corliss Field, but it's the name of the field out behind Composite High School. So go walk back towards the shop area. You'll see signs and that kind of thing. Do not park back there, because I did and I got in trouble.
Yeah, I've gotten in trouble a few times.
What's going to happen at the open house?
So at the open house, we're going to start at 6 o'clock, and the first hour is just time to come see the studio. I know a lot of people are curious about what it looks like, or what gear is there, or how it's all going to work. So it's a great time to come and ask the team any questions. We have a number of young artists who will be playing just in the background, playing some of their tunes that they'll actually, it's kind of like teeing up on Friday night after. This is skipping ahead, but they have a CD release. So they're going to be playing some of those kind of preview snippets at the open house for us. It'll be a lot of fun. And then at 7 o'clock, we're going to have some speeches, and yeah, it'll just be a great time to come tour the space, figure out what this is all about and how you can get involved.
We had Danny Talk on the show. Feels like 6 months or so ago, and he was talking about the studio and what it really means to the musicians and the music community in Fort McMurray. And the words that he used were suggesting that it's a real amazing addition to our community. In your view, why is that the case?
It's something we don't have, to be frank. And I'm pretty new to Fort McMurray. And I've been amazed by the live music scene in such a relatively small city. We have so many great artists and bands, but nowhere to record music. So if you want to record music, you got to go all the way to Edmonton, and then you're thinking about, just the travel money alone, is putting you back. And so just to actually have that service here is a big deal. And then also that it, we have such great programs for youth that, like, right now there's a real gap in what young people can do if they want to pursue music or the arts. So I've spoke to a number of young people who are so excited about the studio because it means there's some chance of them pursuing what they would love to do with their life right now, and that's a giant deal for them.
You mentioned working with young people. The Lionheart camp or the retreat was a couple of weekends ago. Thanks for allowing me to be a part of that.
Oh, thanks for coming.
When you look back on that experience, what jumps to mind in terms of how that opportunity is impacting young people?
I love, like, at the end of camp, for example, they produce a song and then they sit there and they listen to it and they're like, whoa, I made that. Like it's something that makes them believe they can do it. And I think especially with music, a lot of people, you know, I know all the jokes in the book. Like, what's the difference between a musician and a pizza? A pizza can feed a family of 4, right? Like, I know all the jokes, you know, all the stereotypes that there's no chance of making a life in music.
Yeah.
So just to have some people encouraging them and a space for them to explore it, this idea that, you know what, actually, this is a real deal and I could do this. And I had people like that in my own life growing up, and that was so important to me, and I wouldn't be here without them. So hopefully we're doing the same thing for these young people.
The question that's jumping to the top of my mind is, if I'm a musician, and I'm not, but if I was, and I wanted to somehow plug into what the district recording studio has to offer in terms of the recording side of things, how do people go about even beginning that journey?
Yeah, I mean, basically you give us a call. We have some really great, you know, at any stage in your musician's process, if you're a beginner, we have great songwriters that can work with you, that can tweak your songs. Or if you're ready to go, you just give us a call and we'll book you some studio time to record your song. So, and then if you're a young person, of course, we have a variety of services that don't cost you, that you could come in and use as well. So,
you mentioned you're not alone. You have a team. Who is the district recording studio team?
So right now, the district recording studio team is myself. I'm the creative director. Rick Kirshner is our executive producer. Christopher Wells is a great drummer and our head engineer right now. He's just amazing. And then, of course, Sky Seidel is working a lot with young people as well, and we get to hang out. That's the two of us most days that are here. Or if you're message us on Facebook or give us an email, it'll be one of the two of us that'll come and give you a tour or ask you your questions.
I'm going to test to see how sharp your brain is.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the Lionheart Camp, you came up and made a speech. You couldn't find your notes to save your life.
No.
And you started speaking, and you were talking about the life you live today and the life you want to live.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? Because I found that incredibly inspiring. It'd be nice to capture that idea on the radio.
Yeah. So this idea is something out of a book called The War of Art, which is a book I love. And if you're not a reader, you should still read it because all the chapters are like half a page long. It's really great if you're an artist. But it's this idea that we live two lives: the unlived life that we always wanted to live, and the life we're currently living. And what separates the two of these is resistance. So in the book, in the introduction, the author uses this really kind of stark example where, and I hate to be maybe crude about it or whatever, but, Adolf Hitler wanted to be an artist. And he says it was harder for Hitler to stare at a blank piece of canvas than to start a world war. And I know that's exaggerating or whatever, but he uses this strong example to say, doing things like making art or making music is extremely difficult. But it's the thing we're called to do. And it's kind of like the Nike thing. You just got to do it. Like, just do it. Don't wait around for the muse to come, for inspiration to come. Just write. Just make music. Just, get a paintbrush out. Whatever it is you do, just do it. And don't let, Netflix or, all your pet excuses to get in the way, because you were called to be someone who you are probably not being right now, for no good reason at all.
So a disparate collection of young people participated in Lionheart. They came from Fort McMurray. There was a wonderful group of students from Fort Chipewyan, which was awesome to see. And each of them, I imagine, had some resistance in their own bodies, in their own minds. How do you and your team go about creating this space, this safe space, to help them overcome that resistance?
That's a good question. It's usually just, it doesn't take much. A lot of us have a lot of fear inside us that we can't do it, or maybe we've told people who can't do it. Actually, here, I have a great example. Actually, my wife and I were just talking last evening, and she was working with a singer in her vocal class, and the two of them were kind of just chatting after the class had kind of dispersed for a break. And the girl said, I don't really sing loud anymore because every time I would sing in the house, my brother would tell me to stop. And so I haven't really sung loud. And Genevieve was trying to work with them on belting, which is this kind of vocal technique, which is quite loud and quite vulnerable. And Genevieve said, well, you can sing loud here. No one's going to tell you to stop. This is what this place is for. And the girl had a great time the rest of the weekend. Yeah. And so, like, sometimes it's not that easy, but sometimes it's just as easy as, like, claiming the space and being like, guess what? This is safe. I'm a safe person. I'll treat you with respect and love, and we make sure we model that. We don't just say it and act differently, right? Your actions, your words have to line up, and then just like give them permission, basically.
Yeah. I found, because I was instructing a visual art group of 5 students, that at the beginning of the camp, it was like the young people were a little, what's the word? Not gun shy, but cautious.
Yeah, for sure.
But by the end of that experience, it was almost identical to how I felt in Cambodia, spending an enormous amount of time with young people. There, language ceased to matter, the language difference. We were communicating as if we've known each other all our lives, even though we didn't speak each other's language. And it felt similar for me as an instructor. By the end of Lionheart, we were all just people going through an experience together. That's and cool. I think the greatest compliment, not for me, but for the experience, was one of the young ladies was there with her brother, and she said, he normally hates these things, but he's actually having fun.
That's cool.
That was just brilliant.
Yeah, it's amazing.
My guest this morning, stepping in for Santa, fearlessly, ho, 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 is Willi. Willi Whiston is the creative director of the District Recording Studio, having an open house this coming Thursday evening starting at 6 o'clock here at Composite High School. We're going to take a break and come back with more of Impact right after this. Welcome back to Impact. We were supposed to have Mr. and Mrs. Claus in the studio today, but Mr. Claus needs to hire an elf to manage his schedule because he utterly forgot, and he feels horrible about it, and he said he's going to make it up, so I can't wait for Christmas morning.
All right.
Anyway, they're very busy in the community doing all kinds of different things. Of course, just having finished a very busy Festival of Trees weekend, which raised over $600,000 for the community, for the Health Foundation. Santa, a big part of that, of course. Willi Whiston has graciously agreed to sit in the studio and visit with me. He's the creative director of the District Recording Studio, which is having its big open house Thursday evening starting at 6 o'clock. Willi, where in the world are you from?
I'm from Sherwood Park.
Okay.
Yeah.
And our observation of you often is you're like an old soul, but you're a young guy. You're like 21 or something.
Well, I'm not going to disclose my age for the sake of my students.
Yeah, no worries.
But I'm in my 20s.
Yeah. But you're from Sherwood Park, and you and I presume Genevieve went to that beautiful little college that we were talking about on the weekend. So let's see if I can remember the name of it. Clearwater College.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Talk to me about it. I was fascinated to hear about this college.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny thing. So Genevieve, grew up all over the world.
Genevieve is Willi's wife.
My wife, sorry. Yeah. And her family was a missionary family, but I was born and raised in Sherwood Park. My parents built an acreage a couple of years before I was born, and I lived there my entire life. I wanted, after high school, to go to music school. I wanted to study trombone, jazz trombone. That's what I wanted to study. And throughout high school, I'd done a lot of speaking at so I went to a Christian high school. It's probably important to know. I did a lot of speaking at chapels and stuff, and I quite enjoyed it. And a lot of people jokingly would call me like Pastor Willi or whatever. And I didn't really know how I felt about that because I was like, I'm gonna be a musician, all right. And anyways, in the 12th grade, I had a few experiences that were like, okay, actually, maybe I feel like I'm called to go a different direction, and trusted God to do that. So I ended up thinking about going to Bible college, and I wanted to go to one that still had a music component, and somehow. Myself and then at the time Genevieve was my girlfriend, we both ended up at Clearwater College, which is this tiny Bible college in Caroline, Alberta, pretty much the middle of nowhere, half an hour from a town with, I think their biggest store is like not the superstore, but like the smaller version of that. so we ended up here. It's a beautiful college, and we entered this program in our first year called Clearwater Creative Arts, and it was an experiential modeled. So it wasn't a lot of like classroom per se. It was more hands-on. We did songwriting, and we had a recording studio in my favorite building on campus, which was the first building ever built on campus. Which was an old log cabin, and it stood out a little bit apart. You had to walk down to it from the main area, and you'd have to walk down here. It was by a creek, and it was all kind of crooked and shifted from over the years, which made it acoustically beautiful because no two angles were alike, and it's all these logs and whatever. And so we spent a year there with two people who pretty much changed our lives. Barry and Michelle Patterson were in charge of the creative arts program, and to have that kind of experience, like I'd had great mentors in my life before, but not that to the degree where they believed in you so much, and somehow like you, from the moment you shook their hand to meet them, you knew that you were safe there, right? Anyway, so that's where we were, and then after that, I continued on and did some more theology at the college after that first year. But
how did you end up in Fort McMurray?
I ended up in Fort McMurray because of a recommendation from Barry Patterson, my professor. He had met Rick. There's a strong connection between the Bible College and McMurray Gospel Assembly here in Fort McMurray, and heard about the job, and it was kind of everything I wanted to do. I wanted to be in ministry, but I really wanted. I didn't like just go and do regular church stuff. I guess I wanted some sort of different creative way that things mesh together. That was really important to me, and so it was basically my dream job. So we got up and kind of moved, which was hard for us. Genevieve and I got married in Caroline there. It was kind of like, we hadn't been there long, but it felt like home because it's where we started our kind of new chapter of life together. So it was a difficult move for us, but we came up and, here we are.
Somebody famous was born in Caroline, but I'm trying to remember who it was. Kurt Browning or something like that?
Yes.
Figure skater,
Yep.
Am I right?
Yeah, they have a beautiful skating facility in Caroline. That's the one thing they have.
Useless trivia, just like that. Willi Whiston is my guest. Willi is the creative director at the District Recording Studio. We need to take another break and come back with more of the radio program called Impact. It's a team effort of United Way, Fuse Social, Shaw, Spotlight, YMM Magazine, and 91.1 The Bridge. Welcome back to Impact. Our guest this morning was to have been Santa and Mrs. Claus, but they need some help on their scheduling. They're so incredibly busy, they completely and utterly forgot, and we forgive him and her because they're awesome, and they're in their busy season, as you can imagine. It's also winter outside, and I should mention I was listening to Steph talking about the zones and the snow clearing and that kind of thing earlier this morning, and they cleared our street yesterday, so this was the first morning I got to wake up and clear out my windrow, and so I got some exercise for the first time in about 8 months.
Perfect.
Yeah. Willi, thanks for coming in. Willi Whiston is our ad hoc guest this morning, creative director with the District Recording Studio, which has now had a Lionheart retreat a couple of weekends ago, and in the summer had the Lionheart camp.
Yes. Yeah.
When you think back on either or both, and you put so much effort, you and your team, into the weekend and the retreat, can you give us an example or two of, oh my gosh, it was so worth it because of this?
Okay. Yeah, definitely one for sure pops to mind, and I think I've shared this before, but there's a young man, and I remember, I don't know why, this was maybe like my prejudice, but when I'm making the form for people to sign up, I put in this medical section, right? Like you always do. I was kind of looking at other ones, and I was like, I'm not even sure like who would really fill this in. We don't really know anyone. And then one form we got in, and it was full, like just full, like severe ADHD and all the host of things that come with it. And I'm like, oh, all right, this will be interesting. And this young man came to camp, and this was in the summer we did teenagers and then ages 6 to 12. So this was this ages 6 to 12 camp. This young man comes, and he is definitely a handful. Yeah, just it was like I felt like I couldn't teach anyone else, because this whole time I'm just like managing him, like, oh, stop doing that, don't do that. Or, I'm teaching a songwriting class with 2 kids. One girl who really wants to write a song and has never done this before and is quite nervous about it, and this other young man who is with me, and he it's all I can do to get him to just stay on the synthesizer for a moment while I work with this other girl, come back with him. But I really grew to enjoy his company, though, and we did some work just with these story cubes that I have, making stories, and I did some fun work with him in the studio, doing some voiceovers for these fun stories he'd made, and we paired them with some video, and they turned out really great. Had a lot of fun in it, and I didn't think much of it. I was like, oh, he was a great kid. It was a handful, I definitely maybe complained about him once or twice to my wife, shamefully on my part, probably. And then after the camp, his mom sent us this email, and she said they'd been just working through a few things at home. It had been really difficult on him, and his kind of outlet at home used to be singing or acting out some sort of kind of ad lib drama or something, and a few months ago he had stopped doing that because he was just having a hard time with a difficult family situation, and she told us a bit about that, and then she said on Wednesday night he sung for the first time in the house, and I was like, wow, like here I am, like just complaining about, kids, blah, 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 to my wife when I get home. Like, not that I love camp, but at the end of the day, I was a little worn out. And I was like, and to think that, like, just by sitting down with him and encouraging him to, it's okay. Go ahead, tell your story. Go ahead, sing into the mic. This makes a massive difference in the way he processes his emotions and works with his home life. And I was blown away. Like, I forgot the impact we have.
Whew. Yeah, that kind of puts a real focus on it, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're out of time. Willi is getting ready with his team for the open house at the District Recording Studio Thursday evening. You said 6 o'clock, doors open?
6 o'clock, doors are open.
Yeah, so park in the front. That's really important because for safety reasons, they don't really want you parking in the back compound. And come towards the back of the high school, and there will be some signs and a way to come into the District Recording Studio from outside the building. In other words, you don't have to go, the front door of the school won't be open, because that's the first thing I think about when I come down here. It will be at the back. And if you're interested in what a recording studio can mean to this community and could potentially mean to you if you're a musician, I encourage you to come out. It should be a great night.
Definitely.
Yeah, awesome. Willi, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Willi Whiston is the creative director of the District Recording Studio located here at Composite High School. You've been listening to Impact, a team effort of the United Way of Fort McMurray and Wood Buffalo, Fuse Social, Your McMurray Magazine, Shaw Spotlight. That's a brand new name, by the way. They're doing kind of a new thing over there. And of course, none of it would happen without our friends right here at 91.1 The Bridge.